serious questions are being asked about the royal finances as we discovered the true cost of the coronation.
Plus, let's not act like we're not going to spend half of this show poking fun at Netflix's Polo series. Let's get into it, Rupert. Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in sunny yet chilly California.
And I'm Rupert Bell, and I'll be bringing you news after what has been a pretty torrid week weather-wise, but I'll be bringing you news about the Princess of Wales.
Hey, Rupert, this story is not necessarily new. It's a few weeks old. It's based on a documentary and an investigation that Channel 4 did when it comes to the royals' finances. But the reason that it's actually, first of all, I'll say that a few weeks ago, I was on BBC discussing this story, and Channel 4, there was some criticism towards royal commentators. There was one of the investigators there, and they were criticizing us for not acknowledging this story about the royals' finances more, asking us point blank, why aren't you discussing this? Were we showing favoritism towards the royals? My argument was, while you have this big number that you say watched this documentary on Channel 4 throughout social and all that, 15 million people sat and watched Harry and Meghan's interview live. Harry and Meghan are currently the story. While you probably do have a great story and you worked hard on your investigation, the reality is that we lean into what people want to hear, what people want to discuss. And the reality is, it's just not of interest to people how much Prince William and the King are making on these private entities that, they're private, but they have some commercial value. And we'll get into some of those stats for the sake of journalism. But I think that the reason why people are now discussing this is because of that significant amount of money that we saw that the coronation was. First of all, I'd ask, were you surprised by the number that the coronation was? Was it 72 million pounds? And are you at all concerned about the story from Channel 4 growing bigger? Does it have validity? Does it have the validity to really be destructive towards the royals is my question.
I think there are two things at play here. I think it is very important that the royal family are scrutinized. I don't think they should be given a free pass. It's not in the royal family's interest either, in the present sort of climate. They've got to, and let's be honest, the King is always saying, right, reviewing the finances. There's talk of what the refurbishment of Buckingham Palace is costing, and that's, there's an eye-watering amount of money to sort of make it fit for purpose. But he's not necessarily saying that I'll live there, but I'll open it up so that the public can enjoy it. So he's very mindful that the royal family have to be seen to be cost-effective. And yes, the Duchy of Lancaster and Duchy of Cornwall, they are old titles and historically have acquired a myriad of different organizations that pay rent to them. But that is why the King is very aware that he's trying to limit what the state fund the royal family. So much more limited in the money that is drawn down, knowing that the Duchy of Lancaster, the Duchy of Cornwall, which is where the Prince of Wales derives his income from, are basically something that people can equate to. But when you see these strange things, wind farms and things, people are going, well, how's the royal family acquired it? Well, sometimes I even think, how the heck do they get money from wind farms out in the middle of the ocean? I don't know how that comes about. But I'm sure the royal family are mindful of where the PR from this fallout. When it comes to the coronation, I've got a 72 million, I think is fairly small beer, because what you have to look at, it was a pared down coronation, as you know, compared to the one the Queen had back in the early 50s. What you actually got to look at, what was the economic impact? Now, for example, I go to a thing called the Cheltenham Festival. Now, for all you people in America, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. It is a big horse racing festival that takes place in March. And most sports events look at the economic impact that that particular event, whether it be the Open, Wimbledon, bring to the area. Well, I can tell you that the Cheltenham Festival brings £100 million into the area I live in, which is in the Cotswolds in England. So, because they've done economic reports, I am pretty sure that that 72 million would have been matched by the economic impact that it did for GBPLC. And that's where you've got to look at it and say, what did it bring beneficial to Britain in terms of tourism? And that's
you're absolutely right, because the Center of Economics and Business Research estimated that the UK would get, and this is just an estimation, I think it actually turned out to be higher, but they estimated the UK would get £337 million in boosts when it comes to tourism, but also that 3-day weekend where there were more people in the pubs and more people spending money because they had the extra bank holiday on May 8th. I do think the one thing that made me kind of go, ooh, was the $11.4 million deal between the guys in St. Thomas NHS Trust and the Duchy of Lancaster to rent a London warehouse over 15 years to store ambulances. And this is, you're going to be like, that's unrelated. This is silly, but it's hard to digest that, knowing that the NHS is refusing to pay for, like new dementia medications that could change someone's life for the better simply because it's too expensive. I don't think that's a great look when we see King Charles and Prince William so concerned about issues just like that. I think that King Charles would be furious that the NHS would not pay for somebody to have a certain medication because it's too expensive. And then to know that some of those funds, not necessarily in that budget, but funds vaguely related, are going to something that somebody can afford to give them a discount or allow them just to use it.
Well, this is the difficulty for, probably the King and the Prince of Wales are probably unaware of all the sources of income, because both two duchies are big, in a way, corporations. Let's be honest, that's what they are. They're traditional. They've been through the years, have acquired this from way back when. So there's probably a lot of anomalies there. And yes, people are going to say, and that's why the public and the royal family need to know. And then they need to look at it and say, well, how can we make this better? Should we be charging that amount of rent? Do we need to? Because the NHS, which is the great political hot potato in this country like nothing else, it's the reason why, the government in this country is saying why we've done all they've done in the budget is to fund the NHS. Mm-hmm. They're almost their prime mantra at the moment. Now, no one's going to say, that's not, in theory, that's a good idea. But when it comes to the royal family, they've got to try and look as if, they understand. And, but actually, probably the King and the Prince of Wales may not be aware of all the things they're deriving income from, because there's probably countless. So it really behoves the people who run the CEOs of these two duchies, to make sure that they are doing it an understanding of the PR aspect of where they're deriving money. And it's not easy. Before, no one would have batted an eyelid, but now the royal family have to be something that is under scrutiny, because public finances are tight. So the royal family should be no exception. But the King is aware that the royal family has to look as if it understands and behaves in a way that doesn't just say, right, we're a money-making machine and we don't care. And the King and the Prince of Wales, that's not, I don't think, in their DNA. That's not their makeup. They very much want to try and do what is right for the country. So maybe down the line there will be some tweaks and things to what some of these deals. And I'm sure when this program came out, the various houses, the PR people and the teams in the various palaces were thinking, oh, yeah, maybe there are things that we need to look at.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm glad you said that, because that's the way I felt too. I didn't feel that they were aware of these issues. Otherwise, I didn't think that they would exist, because that's typically not the type of people they are. The issues that they were criticized for in this piece are issues that they actually are very fierce about. So that I do want to mention, just for journalism's sake, that a spokesperson for the Duchy of Lancaster, the private estate of King Charles, said it complies with all relevant UK legislation and regulatory standards applicable to its range of business activities. Rupert, I think technically that is probably true, but we've seen, we've evolved, and perception is reality, and taking advantage of whatever loopholes they're potentially taking advantage of might cause some resentment. If you think about the late Queen voluntarily paying income tax and capital gains tax on her personal income, that happened in 1992. This was the first time a British monarch had paid income tax since 1930, and that decision made her incredibly popular. People were super impressed by that.
Yeah, and this is one thing. We've got a big inheritance tax debate in this country at the moment. How do the royal family negotiate their way through that? Exempt. They have got great, private estates. What is the situation there? So the royal family do need to make sure that they move with the times. And I stress again, the king is aware of that. But it will be Prince William, and he's talked about how he wants a different royalty. And that, I think, is a reflection of how he will be thinking. It might not be to everyone's liking. He wants a much more low-key and profile, almost, I'm not saying in European royalty and style. I'm not sure that's quite the way we would operate, because if you look at the royal families in Holland, in the Netherlands, maybe in Denmark, it's a very different royal family to the one we have here, which is much more in the forefront. Yes, they're important figures, but they have a different perception. Here, the royal family is linked to the nation much more, I think. I may be wrong. They're much loved people in those countries, but you look what happened in Spain when the recent floods. The royal family there were copping some flack. So it's interesting. So they've got to make sure they get it right. And when people are looking at everyone's finances, the royal family are no different.
Absolutely. Really quickly before we move on, I'll just read Prince William's team's statement as well. The Duchy of Cornwall spokesperson said, "It is a private estate with a commercial imperative, which we achieve alongside our commitment to restoring the natural environment and generating positive social impact for our communities. No better way to leave an impact." So, like you said, both of these entities have been made aware of the situation. There are likely changes happening behind the scenes, and there was no proof presented throughout that documentary that Prince William or the King were aware of those specific accusations or the way that Channel 4 was challenging them throughout that documentary. And I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said what is the likelihood that these two knew about this, because it's not really in line with where we know their heart is. I think it was especially probably difficult for this to come out around the same time Prince William was getting so much positive press for his homeless initiative. Like, that had to be very frustrating when all of the effort went into building that around him. Before I move on to Catherine, did you have a response to that?
Well, no, I think, yeah, of course it's frustrating, but their mantra of, never complain, never explain, again, we didn't get any real things. Okay, statements from the organizations, but not actually from the royal family. And yes, it's frustrating, but yes, the frustrations for the royal family, when they do something, up pops Meghan and Harry to do something. It's part of the course, good intentions, but let's be honest, I know, a bit of scandal, or not scandal, but some controversy does sell better than a sort of bit of, good intention PR, which is what is about this homeless project. Is very good intention and has very laudable ambitions. But actually, let's be honest, when this comes out, that is actually, perhaps something that's going to be, controversy always is an easier sell from a newspaper or radio and TV point of view.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some positive news, though. Catherine, I was so moved to read that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is expected to honor some of the victims in the Southport stabbing at her Christmas Carol concert. This is according to a new report from The Sun that says the Princess of Wales has invited the survivors of the deadly Taylor Swift themed dance class stabbing in Southport to her holiday concert. They will reunite at Westminster Abbey on December 6th, the outlet said. The royal family has been a tremendous support to the families. The king met with survivors. Then Catherine took time out to meet with them in private last month with Prince William, the Prince of Wales. A source added, now she has personally ensured everyone is invited to her concert, which this year will mean more to her than ever before. Rupert, if my audience isn't familiar with this horrific story, can you give us some background about what happened to these babies?
Well, yeah, what happened was this guy, a teenager, went into this and just had a stabbed these four school children, all dressed up, Taylor Swift themed party. And it's actually become a serious political hot potato because in many in many ways, because there's a lot going on undercurrent with how much the government knew about who this guy was. Was it a terrorist link to, so there's a lot going on around it. It's not just a straightforward, random guy. What was going on? There's a lot of political ramifications from it. But at the heart of it, the fact is somebody wanted to go and ruin the good intentioned dance party themed of Taylor Swift, who, of course, played all these concerts in the UK in the summer. She is the global music superstar of this, and for a long time the biggest thing in music. So it's desperately sad. But the reaction coming to the Prince and Princess of Wales, we know Kate took time out. She's gone there, and the Prince of Wales has gone there and want to offer comfort to the school children and Southport, which is, just for people to put it where it is, Liverpool, it's on the west coast, Lancashire. It's a bit of a old tourist town. There's lots of very famous golf courses there. They have the Open Championship there. It's if you go back to Edwardian days, if you lived in Liverpool, the sort of rich, they would live in Southport on the beach. That's why you've got all these world famous golf courses there. Very much if you hark back to the sort of Edwardian era. Southport is that sort of Liverpool sort of posh area, for want of a better way of describing it. But this was where it is, the shocking nature of what happened in the summer. But the fact is, what is important, I think, for the Princess of Wales, this Christmas concert on December the 6th at Westminster Abbey is very much now an important part of her annual plans. And it does get a big shop window. We've seen her play the piano at it.
I know.
So we don't, and this year will probably mean an awful lot to her to go there. It's televised just in the build up to Christmas. I know it's filmed on the December the 6th and it takes place then, but it comes out, I think, reasonably near December the 25th. So it's an important TV occasion as well. And it is important for the Princess of Wales. So from her perspective, she will definitely want to be there. That will be what we would expect. We saw obviously at the Remembrance Day. This will be the next big occasion that we see her. We know she went to Southport as well. So I think it all fits. It doesn't seem to me it's lovely what she's doing, and important that those poor people in Southport who were affected by this, families, other school children, and will get a chance to just have a day out in London and be part of something a bit special, just trying to ease the pain. But nothing will probably ease the pain for those children who were caught up in it and other people who were caught up in it, because it was horrific.
It is sweet to see the Wales's relationship with Taylor Swift and the different ways that they insert each other in their lives. I'm sure that it was especially penetrating for both William and Catherine to know that they have children at home that would attend a Taylor Swift dance party. They have children at home that love Taylor Swift. So how do you not put yourself in the position of those parents, knowing that you're overhearing Taylor Swift from your baby girl's bedroom? You know what I mean? And I think one of the highlights of my year was watching Prince William dance at the Taylor Swift concert. We know Taylor invited those families to her shows. So I think both Taylor and the Waleses were deeply affected by this story. And to see them actually do something with that and to try to bring some positivity into their lives, I mean, it's inspiring because the Wales family had a terrible year. The fact that they are continuing to think about others, I think, says a lot about who they are. I think it defines them, and says a lot more about who they are than like the pages of Spare.
Well, I think the important thing is the royal family have to be seen to be offering succor, right, to people. If you go back to what the in the Second World War, the reason the king did not leave Buckingham Palace
Mm.
was, I want to stay here because I need to be sharing it with, they could have bolted out to Balmoral, Sandringham, but the king,
Windsor with the girls. Weren't the girls in hiding at Windsor?
yeah, so well, Windsor, let's be honest, that's on the outskirts of London, just as vulnerable.
Yeah.
Uh, my father actually remembers being at school at Eton and hearing the V bombs coming over. So there wherever you were, you could remember the dangerous situations. So, but the king always said, right, we need to be on the front line because the country needs us to be seen to be sharing the same issues. If they bolted up to somewhere where what bombs weren't falling,
Yep.
they would, they'd say, well, it's easy. Well, it's all right for you. You're miles away. So I think for the royal family, yes, they've got their huge issues, and the health of the Princess of Wales is important. The also for other members to do this and Christmas to try and unite, because the king always talked about you trying to unite the country and share and don't feel that it's not we have got to make sure that while we are going through our own issues, but we still are representing this country, and we must still try and make sure we reach out as much as we can to people who have had difficult occasions. And this is, with Christmas round the corner, a comforting way. And I'm sure the people of Southport who are going will appreciate the intentions of it. And I hope they have an absolutely fabulous time at this concert.
Okay, I was rude because I was looking at my phone for a second, but I had a thought. Tell me if I'm wrong. Did this concert originally start on another network, but William and Catherine changed that network because they had worked with Prince Harry in some way and it was critical of them?
Like there's the BBC and ITV sort of claiming who it's not straightforward. I'm not privy, so I'm not going to pretend I know the answer to this. I think it's on ITV. I think ITV do seem to have sort of first dibs at sort of getting a look at, whether it's the homelessness or other things rather than the BBC. So I do think there are forces at play probably behind the scenes, but ITV, I do know ITV have done a lot of the pageants. We have for people who don't know, two mainstream television stations, BBC and ITV. One is state funded or license funded. The other is commercial. But I do know, like things like the Queen's pageant, that ITV have a good in with the royal family. The Panorama documentary was on the BBC with Prince Andrew. So, you can see there's a lot at play here. But actually, at the ultimate, I don't really care which channel it's on, as long as it is something that people will enjoy. But a Christmas Carol concert is something, it is, inherently Christmassy, and I'm sure it will look lovely. And with the Princess of Wales, with her children, I'm sure it will be a suitably fitting occasion in what has been a hugely difficult year for her and the rest of her family.
Yeah, look at you, staying high vibes. I'm the one over here getting it all nasty in the gutter gossip. But I actually think you're right. I think it was the BBC did the Prince Andrew interview that wasn't a positive reflection on the family. And perhaps they they changed direction in that way, or instead of exclusivity, they gave it to, I don't know. I don't remember what the action, I don't remember the details, but I do remember at the time being like, oh, somebody did something bad, because that you want that exclusivity. That is what you want. Because I think that this is going to, yeah, I think this is going to grow into something. I mean, we're still in the early stages of this Christmas Carol concert. I think that this is ultimately going to be, something iconic. I hate that word; it's used too often, but something that people eagerly look forward to every year. And that will inevitably be attached to her legacy, like the sweet moment where you take a breath and you take a beat and you sit down and you're thankful and you're grateful for the last year. And there's something about the royal family at Christmas that they kick off a good new year, seeing them all together. And then, I mean, I think that this year it kind of knocked us on our butts, because we had that great feeling at Christmas 2023, and come January, that's when all the dominoes started to fall when it comes to the health.
Well, yeah, and you think it must have been during that Christmas break that the Princess of Wales fell ill, and presumably the King was feeling, discomfort and everything. So it may not have been all sweetness and light up there. We saw them at Christmas Day and we Sandringham, we do, but now there's talk of all the family getting together, sort of all the extended family. The Queen, whose health has been battling her own health issues, missed the Royal Variety performance, which is a big showbiz occasion, which took place earlier last weekend, because she's still. So, it's not straightforward. But I mean, with all her, with the King's step grandchildren, obviously the Prince and Princess of Wales can go to Amidst Hall, which is within the Sandringham ground. So it's going to be a great big jamboree, I would think, on Christmas Day. I don't know what size of turkey they'll be getting, but it might have to be the biggest turkey going to feed, or they're going to be cooking about 10 turkeys. I don't know. And I hope they don't overcook the Brussels sprouts, which is something no one seems to be able to cook proper Brussels sprouts. Soggy Brussels sprouts is a passport for my childhood. But anyway, I'm sure they've got people who can know what to do with a Brussels sprout. But anyway, I hope they have a Christmas that they can. It will be a time of, thank God that we're all still here and enjoy it for what it is. And the Princess of Wales will be in that boat. We saw she was able to have a good summer with the children. We saw that video. And now Christmas, hopefully it's a time where you can put a full stop and then move into 2025 with a positive frame of mind for all members of the royal family. It will be a period, I'm sure, of great reflection. And when it comes to the King's speech, I'm sure his speech will be reflecting on what has been a difficult year for him and his family, and has made them seem human, because but we've had to see what's going on. And the King has shown great fortitude, carrying on his business as much as possible while still undergoing treatment. Princess of Wales, it's obviously been far more complicated. We've seen her limited, but at least we've seen her. And when we've seen her, she looks to have been in good shape.
Absolutely. When we get down to our Meghan story at the very end, remind me to bring up the holidays again, because she did an interview recently where she talked about the holidays. But I don't want to go in that yet, because there's just, you off camera were cracking me up with your Polo, your Polo trailer analysis. So really quickly, we'll burn through some of these quotes, but according to the Daily Beast, some of Prince Harry's former Polo teammates have responded to this trailer that dropped the last week. That, I mean, you've got it stared in your brain. You close your eyes and you see it. That's how much of a fan you were of it, apparently, Rupert. One former friend of Harry's who played polo with him as a teenager told the Beast, "It's hilarious, but not in a good way. It's so tacky and cringy. It is literally all the worst things about polo. I watched it in appalled hysterics." Another friend basically said the irony is that the game has changed and the game has evolved. And there are people, it can be this elitist sport, but he was disappointed that it seems that Prince Harry has gone in that direction versus focusing on some of these people that aren't as wealthy, that are sponsored. Why not tell these success stories of these people that have worked so hard that they've managed to work their way into the space versus buying their way into the space. He said he was disappointed they didn't go that route. And then hilariously, Liz Jones of the Daily Mail, her reaction was, what's next? His own slot on the shopping channel. How can Harry and Meghan possibly travel the globe preaching about poverty and diversity and inclusion when not one Black player can be spied? The funds required to run a polo team doubtless outstrip that of Formula One. How can they lecture us about global warming when one player admits he flies to Argentina twice a week? How do you include that line in your trailer a week after Time Magazine acknowledges you for your, commitment to, reducing emissions through Travelist, Rupert?
Well, I have to say, I saw the trailer, and I must admit, I've never seen such a big credit for the producers ever in anything. And I'm going, like, one of those, when Star Wars came out and they had the credits rolling through, or whatever it is, the final frontier or everything, or it's a Cecil B. DeMille production from way back when, Prince Harry and Meghan, produced by, and I'm thinking, I'm sorry.
But I think you like rolled over the what gave me the most creeps was why this is a commercial venture. Why do you have to be the Duke and Duchess of Sussex? Queen Elizabeth is rolling over in her tomb right now. I mean, well,
I watched it. Look, my other job is as viewers know, I'm heavily involved in horse sport. Look, I've just come back from Saudi Arabia where I've been watching people compete for millions in a global champions tour event in Saudi Arabia. So I know, money. And I heard recently a horse changed hands for $10 million. That's an exciting prospect. And there's money in horse sport, but polo's no different. And in America and in this country, it's an incredibly niche sport. Yes, but it attracts big money. Now, to be a patron of a team, you've basically got to just watch your money go down the drain because you're return on your investment.
I think that the king is the patron of the Wales team, isn't he?
Yeah, well, look, Harry and William both have played polo all their life. The king has. Prince Philip had to give up polo and then became a top carriage driver. So he was. So polo, look, it is very much that lifestyle. Came about. Why is it a chucker? It was something that was played in India. And it came across, and was something that the British did when they were in India, and it came back, and it's obviously traveled around the world. It's gone to Argentina, so exported. And yet, when you look at this trailer, when you see sports documentaries, and I've watched a lot, when it first started with Drive to Survive, the Formula One one, that was groundbreaking. Really trying to get behind and it's transformed Formula One. One of the great, it suddenly became a sport that people could understand, and some of the personalities. Every sport is trying to do the equivalent. And when I looked at this polo one and the trailer, they are basically trying to go the same. And, the father and son divide, then the wife. And you look at it and you're going, is this really something that is going to drive viewers to Netflix? Unless it's got, if we don't see Prince Harry, then what's the point of it? Polo doesn't mean anything to anybody. Yes, it's glamorous. Yes, there are glamorous Argentinian riders, who definitely can grace any photo shoot the length and breadth of this world. They definitely are beautiful human beings in the main. So you look at it and go, but is this something that's going to matter? Netflix, Harry's gone with an idea, but if he's not in it, help me, what's the point?
Yeah. Well, we do understand that Netflix was disappointed in the final product because it didn't include Harry in the way that they had hoped.
What we're seeing there is he might be presenting the odd trophy, but do we get why he loves polo? What does it mean to him? But if I know the people behind it and I'm aware of these people and I hear stories about them, they've got egos that stretch from California to London. And that's the problem with these people. That, they are very self-confident, rich people who've got an idea that people might actually want to share their lives. But when you look at it, um, okay, I know we have the real wives of Hollywood and people, all this stuff going on, and the sort of
Yeah, but
celebrity.
the difference is those people are cast for crazy. Those people are cast for entertainment. There is a skilled individual on the other end that says, you have a drinking problem. You look fun. I know that you slept with her husband, so I'm definitely going to include you. And they cast for chaos. The difference here is that these are just a bunch of Prince Harry's friends. And we don't even get to see, according to reports, that relationship and how deep that relationship goes. So why do I want to care about these people when I don't even see who they are to you, how they, how much they mean to you? And the fact that he's not included in the trailer, or at least in my opinion, introducing the trailer, which could have been a Zoom call like you and I, just Harry on the other end going, hey, I'm so excited to bring you my brand new show called Polo on Netflix. This sport means so much to me, and I want you to meet my friends. Check it out. Then we would be like, wow, Prince Harry's excited about this. But the fact that we only, maybe they included his name in such large font because they're like desperate for us to know that he's included in some way. But the fact that he is not in there, I've read several industry professionals in Hollywood say this they didn't hit the mark here. Based on trailer alone, they missed the mark.
And this is the problem. I mean, I've seen people, I know I cover racing. They do documentaries here, desperate to try and create awareness outside that individual sports bubble. And polo, look, it's glamorous, but I just don't feel that in the present time that it's going to resonate. And the only reason people watched Spare, the documentary, was because of the tittle tattle, because of him telling the story. And yes, it had millions of viewers, and it was bound to. But that's fine. This polo documentary, I'm sure, will be slickly produced, and there's no reason. And yes, it's a tough sport. Yes, it when you fall off and you're riding these horses, you are susceptible to injury. But actually, let's be honest, it's not a great TV sport. It's a huge field, but people only go there to be seen, and half the people going there won't know the front, back end, side end of a horse. They're only there to be seen. So it's really looking at elite society having a day out in a field somewhere in Florida.
Yeah, the polo events I've gone to here in the States are less about watching the horses and more about your drink tickets, trying to find somebody else's drink tickets on the ground.
Well, that's a great country. I mean, I used my when I was young, when I was at my prep school, my parents used to take me out to Windsor Great Park to watch the polo in the summer in the afternoon. So that was deemed our day out, and then you'd walk across the field between the chukkers to step in the field to play. But that was what they could easily do. And they probably had some friends there. And I'm thinking, well, that was my day out from school, one of 3 that I was allowed in each term. Don't feel sorry for me, Kinsey, but, I'd go to the polos. And I know I've got friends who play polo or involved in it, but it is a niche sport. And it doesn't matter which country you're in, it's niche. It definitely is elite because it's extremely expensive and you've got to have the spare cash to do it.
Well, let's think about some of Harry's pitches to Spotify that were rejected, and Netflix. He pitched to Spotify. He wanted to do a podcast on fatherhood. He wanted to talk to President-elect, former president at the time, Donald Trump, about his father and how it made him the person he was today, despite the fact that they have both thrown mud at each other in the public. He wanted to talk to Putin. He wanted to talk to the Pope. I mean, these were some of the pitches that he gave to Spotify, and Spotify said absolutely no. And Bill Simmons said of The Ringer that if you get him drunk one day, he might tell you some of the other idiotic ideas Prince Harry had. So I'm just hanging outside of his house with a bottle of tequila, ready to give Bill Simmons all I got. But then they pitched to Netflix Emily in Paris, but with a man, some sort of I think it was some sort of Charles Dickens rewrite. I don't know, but I'm wondering. I'm imagining when Prince Harry is pitching this to Netflix, are they just assuming that? Are you about to show me an animal?
No. I'm just no.
I thought you were
No,
about to show me the cat or the
I,
mouse that the cat brought in.
no, I just was worried about my phone. Suddenly said low battery, so I just want to make sure that I'm still
Sneaky,
going
sneaky.
for
I
you.
like your style. Or
Yeah.
what do you visualize? Do you visualize that Prince Harry said in a pitch meeting, polo is an incredibly important sport to my family. My father played polo, my brother played polo, my grandfather played polo, and Netflix is visualizing that story of Prince Harry talking to us about the royal family and Prince Philip teaching him polo? Or do you think Netflix ignorantly made the assumption that they would get some royal association through polo because that is naturally where Prince Harry gets it from? Do we think he made the pitch that included his family? Or do we think they assumed? Because otherwise, I don't know how you sell this show without the royal family connection.
This is my point. I think I will be interested to see how much he features and if he does feature. You mentioned that trailer idea. If he was doing the hard sell and actually saying, "This is where I get my kicks," where I love, where I can let off steam, and why he lets off steam, and show it what it means to him, then that would seem better. But I'm seeing a lot of no nobby no, well, not nobby no mates, but that not sort of people who no one knows who they are. You actually want to go, what does this matter? Whereas,
100%.
and I think when they're pitching it, I'm Netflix. No, when they signed them, they signed them because of their royal connection. There's no two ways about it. They were going to do this documentary where he tells his story about why he left the royal family. Then they've come in. What else have they got? This is the problem for Harry and Meghan. What have they got that actually is going to move the Netflix dial? It didn't move Spotify's dial. Those podcasts I've mentioned before were dull as ditch water. That's the problem. And they've got to
And
come up.
in Rupert, they leaned so heavily on other people in their first episode, they lean so much on other people in all of their episodes. But remember the very first episode, the only episode Prince Harry was featured on was a quote unquote Christmas special that featured Elton John, Tyler Perry, Brene Brown. They have spent the majority of their time and resources since they've been in Hollywood attaching themselves to other people, trying to force those people to put themselves out there so that they don't have to. I mean, I think that they broke down during the Netflix show and had to do that. And you could see there were moments where they were uncomfortable, especially Meghan. But I think that they are desperate to try to make other people show their authenticity while refusing to show any sort of sincerity whatsoever, because I don't think they're very likable people, honestly.
Also, the other thing is they, they're publicity adverse. They say they don't like all this intrusion. But actually, for them to achieve anything, they've got to allow the press in.
Yeah.
And you can't just do it. People will be bored by if it's so controlled. People go, oh, God, what's the point? We know now that when you look back at old chat shows, you look at old Johnny Carson's or whatever you used to have or we have over here, it was basically who's in town. You didn't necessarily be promoting, but if you could tell a good yarn, you come in. You now know that anyone's going to be on the Jimmy Fallon show. It's going to be somebody who's got something to promote that.
Yeah, but that's why you see people like Joe Rogan excelling over here that has somebody on for 3 hours. There are no topics. They bounce off each other. They go in 900 different directions. And the reason he excels is because it's all organic and raw. And it's not hyper controlled. And even there is a way to do it where you are trying to control the narrative, but it looks more authentic or it feels more freeing. And an example I would give you is the Victoria and David Beckham series, where Victoria is talking about her humble upbringing, and David pops his head in and says, like, "I'm here to fact check you. Are you so sure?" And he is challenging her. And it's a humbling moment that might have been scripted, but you were so tickled by watching these two clash that you accepted the fact that 99.9% of that show was hyper obsessively controlled, but you
Oh,
still liked them at the end of the day.
that was so controlled because
Yeah.
there was a lot of airbrushing going on. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
let's be quite clear. Difficult moments in the various stages when he was in Real Madrid and things that were going on. That was a masterclass in protecting brand Beckham.
But it's almost like they don't take themselves, they take themselves seriously, but they don't take themselves too seriously. And Harry and Meghan take themselves too seriously. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I think the in terms of the Beckhams, they control. You've got to admire what he does because I mean he seems to be on every advert. He stopped playing football a long time ago. I mean,
He's now an ambassador for the King's Foundation.
Yeah, yeah. Well, look, yeah, I think he's desperate to get a knighthood, but but the fact is that documentary, you look at it, and people who know what really went on, you go, "Oh, that was quite well done." That's but
and they won Emmys. Harry and Meghan's didn't win any Emmys. They won Emmys.
so you look at it and go, "That is brilliantly contrasted." Telling the story, and it is a good story. They've come from in terms of David Beckham, very humble backgrounds, brilliant footballer. Obviously, absolutely loves the camera, just loves him, and you can see how his personality has evolved. Just wish he'd kept out of the tattoo parlors, but then that's just me.
You don't have to look at him naked, Rupert. Don't worry. You don't have to look at him naked.
Still see the neck round the neck anyway. But anyway, and on the hands, and you think, oh goodness me. But anyway, each to them. I'm just being an old fuddy duddy, but there we go. But you've got to admire Brand Beckham for the way they put that documentary out and got, we all watch it going. You probably go, oh yeah, well we know the story and we know that this has been well put together. They covered the ground, but managed to make it seem, palatable for them as putting it out.
Yeah.
For Meghan and Harry, their issue now is, they've got to, what can they do now? Now, obviously, we know the cooking documentary is coming out or a series coming out. And I've said before, just like the sports documentaries, there are, and particularly at this time of year, you presumably on your television in the States can't see enough people trying, and with this being Thanksgiving week, there must be everyone telling how to overcook a turkey or make sure you try and lessen the impact of having a very dry turkey on your plate on Thursday. So here's my point. Is it going to be different? She just does not look like, to me, someone who gets a Brillo pad out and is scrubbing the dishes after she's cooked.
No, that's for the help to do. Well, Victoria also is releasing a competing docuseries about her life, her navigating fame from a young age and her empires. So they're saying that might create additional animosity between Victoria and Beckham and Meghan. I think that Victoria is just done with Meghan. She's got too much going on, and the Beckhams want to be on the winning team, and that is the British royal family. I don't think that Victoria thinks about Meghan Markle very often. But I'm glad that you mentioned just kind of like the trying to control the narrative and how it can feel almost like strangulation sometimes when it comes to the Sussexes, because I was thinking over the weekend when we saw the new interview from Meghan Markle where she's talking about how she likes to have low-key holidays. We'll get into how Meghan is the 17th down to the line of 17 when it comes to the YouGov's new poll of popular royals. But in this new article with Meghan, promoting that she did a special dinner for Afghan refugee women in the United States, Thanksgiving dinner, I have a hard time digesting this new Meghan the Martyr narrative that clearly the new PR is pushing, where every once in a while she will do an exclusive interview with one particular outlet. It's not journalism, it's copywriting. I've said it before, I'll say it again. If you are not challenging this woman about anything, it's copywriting. And she was talking about how she has her low-key holidays where she might save one space at the table for a friend like Gloria Steinem. You talk about the royals and their beautiful holiday traditions, Meghan is trying to push herself out here as this entertaining guru where we are supposed to aspire to live a life like hers. And I look at her life and I think, how incredibly lonely. Why isn't that seat at the table for your dad? Is your holiday low key because you've alienated every single person in your life?
Well, let's be honest. It doesn't take probably not a very good phrase right now, the brains of the Archbishop in this country, because we've got controversy with the Archbishop of Canterbury going on at the moment. But the point being, if you look at Harry's alienated from his family, she's alienated from her family. What's the common denominator? My case, I rest my case, my love.
Doesn't it frustrate you that people still lean into the PR propaganda? I mean, I guess their objective is to continue to have some sort of relationship with the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. But if my ultimate objective is to have a relationship with the British royal family, I don't pander. Does that make sense?
Oh, I think the problem is they do drive copy. People are interested, whether we like it or not. We have to accept they are out there. Curiosity, that what's going on. We are talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to accept, we are talking about them and what their role is. But we know that they are scrambling for the oxygen of publicity, but they only want that publicity very firmly on their own terms. Now, we've seen Harry recently having a mock tattoo with this guy who's going to be singing at Invictus Games, and people talking about his Californication. That's what Red Hot Chili Peppers singing that song. But anyway, of Harry and how his accent sort of morphing a bit, sort of going a bit West Coast now. But that's fine. He lives over there and he's hearing it all the time, watching on TV and everything. You are going to adapt the phrases. That's just what people do. So I don't have a problem. But you feel at times even that is a sort of trying too hard, because the guy doing the mock tattoo isn't an uncontroversial character, if I'm not mistaken.
Jelly roll, old jelly roll.
Yeah, Joe.
It surprises me because Harry and Meghan tell us that they don't like, they don't like the press intrusion. But do they not recognize that the stories that they produced themselves out of the Netflix series and out of Spare, they created those tabloid headlines? I mean, when I was working on our spreadsheet today, putting together our show, I saw a headline that said King Charles's heartbreaking 9-word plea to his sons. And I'm like, that's a great story. I click on it. I start putting together the script and I get to the bottom where it says this is a portion included in Spare. To this day, these stories are still being regurgitated as headlines. People are seeing them, wondering if they're new. They're not new, but they created the chaos that's around them. Stop acting like you reject it and then seeking only the niceties, then seeking all of the happy Meghan the Martyr headlines, hanging out with Afghan women. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. The hypocrisy within the Sussex is writ large. Look, it's very good. I have nothing but admiration for the intention of the Invictus Games. As an ex-service person, I absolutely applaud the intention of it, and I want it to be a success. And I'm sure in Canada in February, it will go well, as long as, the service people taking part in it are the story, no one else. Let's hear the stories of those individuals, and let's see. Yes, you've got to have someone who's organizing, and yes, he is. That's his thing, and I'm sure it will be a success. But they've got to allow, if you want to make sure that you aren't just seen as a control freak of the press, then you have to let go a bit and actually trust that if you are saying what you are, then be truthful. But they know that sadly, some of the stories that have come out, whether in this country or recently, allegations even made against the Archwell and various organizations, that these two are quite a difficult couple to work for. And so they have got to make sure that, but they've created this problem. They've created the drama around them, yet they obviously, don't actually see that they've done anything wrong. And Meghan will say, well, I'm just a hardworking, I'm a corporate demanding boss.
Yeah.
Well, you can be a demanding boss, but you can bring your team along with you. And sometimes that team does not quite sing from the same hymn sheet and doesn't quite believe the boss's cry. And that's one of the problems for them. If say the cooking documentary is a success, well, I may even be forced to try a recipe or two, but I'm not holding my breath. Certainly Kinsey.
Part of me feels like too that I do think that Meghan has a hard time communicating kindly. I think a lot of it's insecurity and trying to force people to respect her versus earning that respect. But I also think in studying the decline of Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's brand, they're talking about how they need to define themselves today because they're getting swallowed by all of the other celebrity brands, which I think Meghan Markle should be paying close attention to. If Goop is on the decline because there are too many celebrity lifestyle brands, how does Meghan stand out when the Queen, the first person to launch herself in this e-commerce world, celebrity e-commerce commerce world, just laid off 40 employees? How does Meghan stand out in that scenario? They said that Gwyneth needs to define herself. And you and I could spend all day, I've stolen an hour of your day, but you and I could spend all day debating what defines Archwell. And I don't think we'd have an answer at the end of the day. Do you?
No, at the moment, no. But, they're trying to, yes, there may be some good intentions about some of the charity aspects, which is what Harry should be focusing on. He's good when he's on his own and he's out there. People like him. He can still rediscover what he was so good at. He's just got to have, trust himself and believe that everyone, don't play the victim. Just go out there, because I know the people, when he turns up, he's good value.
Yeah.
But it's how he can make sure that he doesn't get lost in all the other stuff. And at the moment, so much of what he does gets lost in the problems, whether it be the court cases here or the trying to establish himself here, trying too hard. And this is the problem. If he just now pares down and goes back to what he was good at, which was actually getting out there and helping other people and being on the front line, then it might work for him. But he's got to make sure it's on his terms and not on anybody else's terms, if you get my drift.
Oh, I do. I wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Speaking of that other person's terms, I'll blow through this because you've been so gracious with your time. According to Newsweek, Meghan Markle's UK popularity has slumped so low. She is behind rarely reported royal princess Alexandra, known only to 56% of the country. This is according to a new YouGov poll, where Meghan is the 17th on the list of the most popular royal family members based on the size of her fan base. Meghan was liked by 23% of Brits, but known by 99%, putting her one place behind Princess Alexandra, who is liked by 25%, but only known by 56%. Trademark issues aside, Rupert, could these types of numbers, this type of decline in popularity, be holding up American Riviera Orchard? Could her team be going, we've got to do some serious cleanup when it comes to perception before we try to launch a lifestyle brand?
I think so. And in this country, Princess Alexandra, she's now quite old, and, was a very, she used to do quite a lot of royal duties, and, so is out there. But it really reflects, people are probably in this country, they've got more pressing things to worry about than what Meghan's up to. There's a lot going on in this country. Meghan's chose to live in America. She's no longer relevant. She had a chance to be relevant in this country, but she decided that it was not for her. And
that's what frustrates me so much about her specifically trying to continue to use the title. You have now been not a royal longer than you were a senior working royal. Let it go and move on. Like I had one branding expert that has no opinion whatsoever say it's ludicrous that she's trying to use a royal crest as her American Riviera Orchard logo when she's an American and we don't acknowledge duchesses here.
Well, and look at that Polo documentary.
Yeah.
It's about the Duchess of Sussex. She
Mm-hmm.
knows has to live off that brand. In this country, Harry still will have a good fan base because people remember the cheeky chappy, and we all know the wedding and everything. It was all good. It was all so good. But it's turned sour so quickly. And they're now irrelevant. We've got more pressing things to worry about. The stories have been dominated by, as we've been talking about, the King's health, the Princess of Wales's health, the Prince of Wales trying to manage this. That documentary that came out about the royal finances. These are all the things that matter now to the British-based public about the royal family. Meghan is a sideshow.
Ooh.
And
Oh, she'd hate that, Rupert. You're not on her Christmas card list. She's not saving that extra seat at the Thanksgiving table for you, Rupert.
She's a bit part player. And this was her problem. She didn't even like it when she was in the royal family, being married to someone who was the fifth in line to the throne. That galled her because she could not be. Protocol dictated where she had to stand. And that is not what she likes. And she did not understand it. It's her big mistake. If she played the game and understood it, she'd be in a very different place now.
Ain't that the truth? No, she's not going to be ensemble. She's no longer ensemble, Rupert.
And then in this year of all years, she'd have been out there doing big stuff on behalf of the royal family, and everyone would have been very happy and grateful. She missed her. When you look at this year, this is the year the Sussexes could have been center stage, basically helping his brother out, helping his father out, and being, doing the business. But they chose not to, and they have suffered as a consequences. Maybe the royal family have also suffered as a consequence as well, that they are down on numbers. But they could have and should have, but didn't.
I would rather have Princess Alexandra's cat opening a hospital for me than Harry and Meghan in the UK at this point in time. Really, really quickly, I'm going to let you go, but I do want to ask if you think, because I think a lot of what has held Harry and Meghan back this year is the illness of the King and Princess of Wales, because how tacky did it look when the Princess of Wales was like, my first appearance post-cancer announcement, and Meghan releases dog biscuits. Wouldn't it have made a positive impact for Harry and Meghan to do anything towards a cancer charity this year, whether it be a donation, whether it be a carpet, whether it be a video tribute to somebody? Like, I just feel like what a missed opportunity that Harry and Meghan haven't acknowledged cancer this year.
There's a lot they've got to look at and say, what do we need to do better? Mm-hmm. And that's a simple thing to do, just doing something that actually understands what members of his family are going through. And that is the problem for Brand Sussex. They are, you feel, too self-absorbed.
Yes.
Therein lies the problem, because they're cocooned in Montecito and they listen to themselves rather than to, and so they're basically in an echo chamber. Mm-hmm. And they out of that chamber and actually say, right, what can we do? Harry may be trying to do that now, as we've seen him going out more on his own. And the more he does that, the more it will help his cause, because when he's on his own, he does look in a good place. But obviously, he's now going to have the fallout from the Polo documentary, which might prove to be a success. They've got to get through Christmas, but Christmas sounds like, as Meghan was saying, I've got my mum nearby, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be rushing up the hill to Montecito or wherever you do in Montecito to have a house full of family members, which is desperately sad, because Christmas is a time where you try and get family members. It's not always easy, and there's always complications in families. But in the Sussex's case, it just is sad when you know that over the pond There's going to be a gaggle or whatever the collective noun is for the royal family, gaggling, giggling, hopefully, in various large houses in Norfolk, and
with
having
their
hope.
their joke gifts. I've always liked the stories about the silly gifts that they get each other versus getting them nice gifts. And Ellen DeGeneres is now living in the over near King Charles, so Megan's not going to have Ellen's house to hang out at in Montecito.
Well, I may bump into I think where she's living, I may be only about 20 miles away. I may be bumping into Ellen DeGeneres because they probably go to this place called Soho Farmhouse. They all do. It's a celebrity Cotswolds. Yeah, because obviously you've seen all the Christmas Holiday. I bet you've watched Holiday, which is the corniest Christmas film featuring Jude Law. Who else anyway? Cameron Diaz, Jack Black, and somebody, Kate Winslet. Yeah. It's so corny, but it's set in the Cotswolds where I come from. And we had snow last week. So I could see pictures of because I live in a picture postcard perfect English countryside.
Oh, but you are such a bragger. Samantha Markle said too over the weekend, and it was a rare, humbling kind of statement from Samantha saying, "Look, I don't need to, I'm not going to fight to meet my niece and nephew, but it is sad that one day their mom and dad are going to be gone and they're not going to have any family because they don't know their cousins." That crushed my spirit to think about them all alone in the world, because that's true. This is Thanksgiving week for us. Before you leave, tell me one thing you're thankful for. Are you thankful for being Ellen's neighbor?
Thankful about being Ellen's neighbour, but it's interesting that she's come here. I'm thankful that I woke up this morning.
Oh, I'm grateful that you wake up every morning. I love you.
Getting to a certain age, and I'll tell you what, I'm thankful. This is only, again, dear viewer, been a one body tonic session because we've recorded.
You would have prepared too if you knew how long I was going to keep you today.
Well, I promise my butler's off tonight, so I haven't. Summon an extra vodka and tonic for you, Kinsey. Sorry.
Do you think Ellen stole your butler when she moved there?
Butlers are a very expensive commodity to have now. I don't know if you're a butler, you are earning good money, but I can't afford one. But anyway, it's been my wife is currently over in Boston celebrating Thanksgiving with her because she's got elderly parents, so she'll be there enjoying overcooked turkey like so many Americans this week. And I hope you have a lovely Thanksgiving yourself.
Thank you. If you agree with us, disagree with us, not about Thanksgiving, but about everything else, make sure you leave a comment below, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you so much for spending your Thanksgiving week with us. Bye, Rupert.
Goodbye, Kinsey.